But hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's State of the Union with your host, Lee Norwood. You all know Lee, but you may not all know me. I'm Emily Mobley, Director of Punctuation and Structure for Annapolis College Consulting. You can find information about me on ACC's website. It's my pleasure to be here with you tonight. Our presentation, is aptly titled State of the Union Spring 2021. And our focus will be on providing you with a look at our current post-COVID college application state of affairs. Granted, we are not out of the clear yet when it comes to COVID, but we do have some updates to share with you on the topic of college applications. Tonight's webinar is of the most relevant to parents of juniors as their students are gearing up for go time. Parents of sophomores will get an idea of what to expect next year. We'll also take a look at the impending timeline. Our plan is to make this presentation about 30 minutes with a short Q&A period at the end. Please use the chat window for your questions. It's hard for me to monitor all the windows, so please use chat. And during the presentation, I will provide links to relevant information sources. And speaking of information, I have to mention that ACC's website is really the place to start when you want to know almost anything. ACC's Facebook page is also a great resource. And as always, if you have questions pertaining to your student, call Lee directly. Okay, Lee.
Thank you, Mo. Hi, everybody. So I'm really excited, and I've been wanting to do this with you guys for a while. And I think what we're going to do right now is kind of level set, because it's been, we're kind of coming out of COVID, the daffodils are blooming, spring is in the air, and now everybody's worried because, what are we supposed to be doing? What's the right thing to be happening in your students' world right now? But also, I wanted to go back and let you know a little bit about what has gone on as far as college admissions over the last year, because some things have changed. So can I get a thumbs up if you guys can see this? Mo, you got it?
Yep, I can see it. It looks great.
Perfect. So we are doing your college admissions overview, State of the Union for spring of 2021. Some of the changes that have happened this year are just crazy, and I'm going to address each one of them. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID on the campuses, hybrid classes on campus, and then go down this list you can see to the left to kind of answer any questions and tell you a little bit about what's going to be going on in the future. So right now with COVID on campuses, I have a daughter who's a sophomore, as you guys know, at NC State. And yes, their classes are still hybrid. They are still wearing masks, but they are really, really doing a lot of vaccinating and a lot of testing on a continuous basis. NC State and tons of other schools have already said that they will be going back to in-person or some sort of hybrid learning for the fall. So for all of you guys out there, this is really exciting, because you're going to, what got taken away from you senior year of high school is going to be given back at college. And hopefully you will be able to have some in-person classes and see what college is supposed to be like. A lot of the labs and things like that where kids have struggled because they haven't been able to have that hands-on experience. Those are some of the first things that are going to go back. So COVID on campus is starting to loosen up a little bit. We saw that with sororities. We're doing pledge classes this spring. I know my daughter's activities are starting back up, and they're loosening up on some of the restrictions as far as campus living. We don't know yet if you'll do roommate situations or if it'll be single rooms, and that's going to be college by college. So we're just going to learn as we go. I wanted to take a little bit of time to point out some things here on the screen. You can see right here, the New York Times said the college admissions rat race. While top tier colleges this year were dealing with surges in applications, lesser known colleges had sharp declines. So we are often hearing about, oh my gosh, all of these kids have applied to this and that school. And this and that school are typically the schools that you've either seen in a movie, somebody who went to, or they're those bumper sticker schools that everybody knows. Everybody knows Harvard. But some of these great small liberal arts schools and schools you may not know as well, they really suffered this year with kids applying. And we're hoping that that's going to even back out. The interesting thing is most of the schools that we're looking at and we're focused on are those ones that have an absolute surge in applications. So I'm going to take this moment to just share with you keep your mind open. Let's look at schools you haven't thought of, because there's going to be a right fit for you. I'll tell you that Emily and I went to Elon College. And when we went to Elon College just a few years ago, it was a 4-letter answer to a New York Times crossword puzzle. And everybody knows that's the hardest crossword puzzle. No one knew what Elon was. And now it's a school that people are really, really trying hard to get into. So don't overlook those smaller or lesser known schools. The Harvard Crimson here shows you that Harvard this year received a record high of 57,000 applications, and they had to delay their release date. So typically there's something called Ivy Day, and it's at the end of March. This year it's April 6th, because basically the drain has been flooded with students who are applying to these upper tier colleges. And then if you look at the bottom here, University of Florida welcomed more than 15,000 kids to the class of 2025 with an average GPA of 4.51. So that is crazy. That's a little bit about what's going on here. If we come down to this next page with this application surges, look at Fast Company. Here's some of the acceptance rates for the class of 2025. I tried to get you lots of different sources so you could see this. Now, I know all of you guys are probably itching to get out there and see those colleges and get on campus and visit, but I'm going to let Emily share a little bit with you now about actually visiting colleges in the time of almost post-COVID.
Well, really, what I need to stress here is that there is still, every campus is different and the rules change all the time. And it is time for those of you, well, the older ones are, getting ready to make their choices and they want to step on the campuses. And so for them, this is very pertinent. But even for those of you who are considering the campus visit, I can't stress enough, you really need to follow the safety protocols. They care first and foremost about their students and staff and professors and all those people involved in that campus. And each of them have their own rules, and you will find those rules on their website. It updates sometimes every day. So if you're considering a visit, most of them aren't doing tours yet, but you can do self-guided tours and that kind of thing. Please make sure you check their website for the latest up-to-date rules. There are some campus guidelines, even if you do a self-directed tour, campus guidelines about social distancing and wearing a mask and limiting public gatherings that we want very much for you to check out and follow if you can. So that's what I have to say.
Thanks, Mo. Right. You have to always think of this as the business of college. And colleges right now, their number one concern is the kids who are there and who've been there and bringing them back to some semblance of normal. Number two is to get all these admitted students from the class of 2021 on campus for Admitted Students Day. So they get all rah, 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 and they decide to go to that school because their final decision date is around May 1st. And then third are kids like you who are going to look at campuses. Wanted to share a little bit more about what is an acceptance rate. And you can see here, Colby College, 8%, Emory, 20%, MIT, 4%, Notre Dame, 14%. This is acceptance rates. This is the rate, the percentage of kids that they accept out of a whole pool of applicants. So what we typically say is anything lower than 30% acceptance rate is considered highly selective. Okay, those are the ones that are tough. What has happened this year? What has happened? Why is there an application surge? Well, it's because everybody went test optional. Due to COVID, most schools went test optional. And what did that do? It clogged the drain. A lot of kids who probably shouldn't have applied up to those schools applied anyway. And now what has happened, because we do what's called holistic reviews, I actually just sat down with someone who reviews Bucknell, and they read every single application and what they do with every single application. And they really put it through a rigorous system. They had to delay Ivy Day by quite some time. So that'll be, I think, April the 6th. So we've got kids still biting their fingers about when or not they're going to get in to those really highly selective schools. But in addition, what it's done is it's grown the wait lists. What has happened is if a college isn't sure that you want to go there, they're not going to give you an offer because they don't want you to say no, because if you say no, then their acceptance rate changes. And again, you have to look at it from the college's point of view. It's a business for them. So you'll hear a lot of your friends are on these wait lists and they think that that means they'll never get in. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that they had what it takes to go to that school and they're just waiting to see how everything shakes out, and they don't want to make an official offer to them until they're pretty sure that that student's going to go. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, I can help you figure that out a little bit later. But back to the test optional, which is what's going to affect you guys. The test optional policy does not mean test blind. Test optional means you couldn't get to a test, you couldn't take a test, or some schools just have been test optional for quite some time because they don't believe that the testing means that much. But I'll tell you something right now, testing means something. It does. It is an indicator of how well you're going to do in the college process. And it is also an indicator that a lot of schools use to give merit aid. Merit aid is the tuition discounts that they give to kids that they believe will do very well at their schools and they want to have. So even though things were test optional, and it might be test optional again this year, we are encouraging all of you to take the test that you are the most comfortable with. Emily, do you have something to drop into the chat right now?
Well, which I've dropped a couple things. Which do you want the Apple Ruth?
Yes. So Apple Ruth is our tutoring partner, and we have several. We don't have a favorite, but we happen to like Apple Ruth, and I'm going to share this with you right here. Whoops. Well, I'm going to stop that share. Let me share something else. Here is the Apple Ruth flyer. Okay. Why is it not showing?
I can see it. What do you mean? Like
you can see the Apple Ruth flyer?
Uh-huh.
Oh, good. I can't. Okay. So the Apple Ruth is doing a test weekend coming up this spring where you can take a proctored test, and you'll be able to, there'll be somebody on there monitoring it, test drive that SAT. You just sign up right here with appleruth.com test drive. We are partners, not partners with them, but our students get a little bit of extra time and tutoring time if you choose to use Apple Ruth tutors. But I highly recommend you guys give it a whirl. If you haven't taken the SAT, take it. If you haven't taken the ACT, take it. The tests are different. The schools don't care which one you have, but we want our kids to have tests. Does that make sense?
Does to me.
All right. So it's hard with no feedback.
Yeah.
So testing to us is very important. So what should you be doing right now? You should be getting the best grades that you can. You should be figuring out if the SAT or the ACT is the best test for you, and you should be preparing for your AP tests. Nothing else is important as those things. And number one being getting good grades in your classes. That's what you should do. Everything else is going to fall into place, and we're going to show you a timeline and show you how that works. But again, right now, your job is to be the best student that you can. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So some other changes that did happen with that testing, which is pretty exciting, I think.
Can you share your screen again?
Yep.
There you go.
The subject tests are gone and the writing section is gone. So way back when we wondered if we should take writing or not with the testing, and then subject tests were something that some schools, especially the more highly selective, were expecting you to take. Those things have gone away. So yay, you do not have to worry about that. The only students that are doing any of this at all are international students, and none of you fall into that category. So for you, it's just the test. And we don't want you to take any test more than 3 times. So if you haven't talked with me and we don't have a testing plan set up, we need to do that. All right. So now we're going to move down to something else that changed this year.
Before you go on to FAFSA and all those guys, we do have a question.
Okay.
And please let me take this moment. You guys, it's really hard to monitor Q&A and chat. If you'll put your questions into chat, I can be quicker on the uptake here. But there's a question: how much do colleges care about AP scores?
Good question. So colleges and AP scores, it's 2 different things. So an AP classes show that you are taking rigorous classes. And that's the number one thing that colleges look for. What kind of rigor did you take? So you're taking an AP class that shows you pushed yourself and you did well. Getting the AP test, that depends on each school and each state. When you take that AP test, because it was a college level course, that can often translate into college credit, or sometimes it translates into maybe you skipping that first like English 101. Okay. Here's an example I'll give you from my daughter. In the state of North Carolina, they take 3s, 4s, and 5s. AP tests are graded on a scale of 1 to 5. They give you credit if you get a 3 or a 4 or a 5 on any of your AP tests. So that $97 you paid to take that test can translate into a full course at college, which is pretty awesome. So my daughter walked into school with 23 credits. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, when you go to college, a credit hour is how many hours you're sitting in that class a week. Typically, students take between 12 and 18. 15 is the average. Credit hours a semester. That's 15 hours a week they're in school for that semester. So if you can walk into college with any number of credits, that helps you do a lot of things. You can graduate early. Woohoo, parents are going to pay less. And that never happens. You can minor in something. You can double major. You can maybe spend an extra, abroad time because you've got credits. It gives you shuffle room. So I hope that answered your question with that.
There is another question about ACT writing portion of the test. Do you want to do it now or at the end?
There is no writing portion. There's nothing to talk about.
Hopefully that answered your question. Okay.
So other changes that have happened are in the FAFSA and the CSS. Now, we could spend the rest of the night talking about the FAFSA and the CSS profile. We're not going to. What I am going to share with you is the FAFSA, and it's FAF, is the free application for federal student aid. You apply for that on October the 1st, okay? The CSS profile is another way that colleges can often look at your ability to pay. It looks at assets in a different way, okay? There are 90-ish schools in the country that use the CSS profile. Right now, what I'll say to you is the FAFSA is set up for parents who want to look and see what their expected family contribution will be, whether you agree with what it is or not. That's what the government says. And then that determines your need, okay? The government gives you certain things. They can give you a Pell Grant, which is typically for a lower income family. They can give your student the ability to take out loans. You don't have any credit, but the government's willing to loan your student $5,500 a year, his freshman or freshman year. Or they can provide and say, you're going to do work study. Colleges like work study because it means that the government is subsidizing parts of the payment that goes to the student. Those are the three things the government can do for you. Then that FAFSA number goes to the university itself and becomes a measurement of your need. Every university has the ability to give some financial need money to families, and that's what that's based on. If you want to go check out what you think your expected family contribution will be, you can go to the FAFSA forecaster. There's lots of different places. You can just Google it and get an estimate, and we'll be able to help you find colleges that fill that need gap. The CSS profile, some of the more private schools are having you do that. Again, it looks at your assets a little bit differently. But what's the change? The change is that the FAFSA has gone from being this long to this long. Okay, they have shortened it tremendously. This is not going to go into effect for another year. And there's some things in that changing FAFSA that are being argued. So until we know exactly what those changes are, I don't want to pontificate on those because we haven't locked those down solidly. As far as the CSS profile, there have been some changes made in that. And Emily's going to go ahead and drop a flyer on the CSS profile, what it means, what it is, what it measures in the chat. So you can check that out. Okay. Sound good?
It's done.
It's done. Another thing I wanted to let you know is every year we do an ABCs of paying for college. We do it every single year with one of our financial planners. If you want to look at last year's, because not much has changed, you can go to the Annapolis College Consulting YouTube channel. I recommend you all do, and I recommend you all watch a couple of the videos for new families because they're really very, very good. But in there is the ABCs of paying for college, and that's going to be dropped into the chat right now, that link as well. And that'll get you a little deeper into all that nice, uncomfortable financial stuff. All right.
My gosh. Well, I jumped in a little bit ahead of time. So everyone, it's just above the CSS. And so the link for the YouTube video she was just talking about, ABCs of paying for college, is right there in chat.
So how many of you feel like information about college is coming at you like a fire hose to the face? Because that's how I feel. So I do my best, and Mo does her best to curate the information that's out there, because there's so much of it. Curate it down to what is important for you to need to know. And then based on our communications and your student and our one-on-one, then we curate it down to what you specifically need to know. So it's kind of a funnel of information that's coming down. So if you feel overwhelmed, you are not alone. We have lots of places where we store the information that we think is important for you. And believe me, we're going to get through it and you're not going to miss a beat, but we just want to go over it and let you know kind of where we are from a top level. Other changes that happened in this last year, the Common App. If you don't know what that is, it's one application that can go to, 20 different schools. When you and I went to college, we applied to 2 schools, maybe 1 school, maybe 3, if our fingers weren't tired of filling out the application. These kids fill out one Common App and it goes to as many schools as they want. There's a few different versions of the Common App, but for the most part, that's the one we're all going to use. And they have put a new essay question in. We'll go over that later when it's time to talk about essays, and you talk to Emily about that. And then there's also a COVID essay that is in there, that if COVID has affected you, your family, your school in a way that you feel is important to share with the college, there is space there for that. Last year, I cautioned kids, COVID, it made things uncomfortable for everyone. That's not what you put in that section.
No.
We will just be putting things that, a significant thing that affected you, that something you may need to explain to the admissions officer who's spending 7 whole minutes reading your application. And then because some schools are test optional and staying test optional, if you choose to take that test optional route, there's going to be extra supplemental questions. So what does that look like? Well, you have your basic essay that Emily's going to talk to you about one-on-one, and that's your personal essay. But then every single school that you send this common application to has some sort of supplemental requirement. And if you don't have test scores, often there's additional supplementals. What I think is pretty funny, and I'm going to see if I can find it because I just love it, but my favorite college that has my favorite supplementals, I'm just going to pull it up here. Sorry, Mo, for going off on a tangent here, but I'm going to, is the University of Chicago. So here's what I mean about a supplemental. All right. You're right.
Oh, and I have to say this, wait till you see this year's.
Yeah, this is last year's.
This is last year's.
So you decide you're going to apply to University of Chicago, one of the top schools in the country, and you've written your regular essay and you've done all of the things that you and I are going to work on all through up until next fall. And then you plug that you're going to go to this school. Well, let's just pick one. What can actually be divided by 0? That's one of their supplemental essay questions. One is, do you feel lucky today? Well, do you, punk? Eleanor Roosevelt. Misattribute a famous quote and explore the implications of doing so. I mean,
wow.
What I find about supplementals is that if you read one of these supplemental questions and it speaks to you, I have a student who read this one. Who does Sally sell her seashells to? And how much wood can a woodchuck really chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? That spoke to her and her pen just started moving. She was ready to go. That scares me to death. So that's probably not a school I'm going to apply to. But anyway, that's interesting. More supplementals are coming if you don't have test scores. Now, University of Chicago is a great example of a school that has been test optional for years. This whole test optional thing was nothing new to the University of Chicago. But here's the story. 75% of the students who apply there apply with test scores. So it's important to have your test scores if you can. Lots of times merit aid is just a simple grid of what's your GPA and what's your test score. And that's whether or not you get that merit aid discount. So just one more plug I have for testing. Do we have any questions, Mel?
We do. I was going to wait until the end. I can ask. Let me go up a little bit. Are you saying that it's, wait a minute, that you answered? Hold on. Okay. This was asked back a little bit earlier. Are they taking into account if students really struggled during COVID semester?
Okay. So
I
we
don't
all
remember what that was in reference to, but I think in general to the, essays and the testing.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, there are human beings reading these, and everyone who's reading your application, their number one goal is, to invite you to their school. They want great kids and they want the right fit. But again, COVID was hard for everybody. So you've got to figure out how you're going to show yourself off. How are you going to become distinctive? A lot of kids' grades suffered, or their class standing suffered. Oh, well, you're not the only one. I hate to say it like that, but we kind of have to figure out how we're going to present you in a different way. Some kids really couldn't take the test. They just couldn't. And we're going to explain that in the additional information. There's an opportunity for your guidance counselor to discuss something if there was a particular class that kind of fell off the earth because the teacher couldn't teach it well in an online situation. Your guidance counselor will be able to write about that. So no one is trying to not level the playing field. We want that level playing field, and they're going to give you everything you deserve within the context of your high school, right? They're not going to compare you over here to McDonough over here, right? They're going to look just at you and your high school and what you were capable of doing in that world that you were in. So I hope that that answers your question.
Yeah. Do you want to take one more?
These, I'm just straight up answering.
Right. Do you want to take one more?
Sure. I'll take one more and then I'll go back.
This is a question about early decision. The author's understanding is that early decision means you go there if you get it, no matter what. That's true. Is it a disadvantage to apply early decision if you have a reasonable expectation of getting some merit aid? Do you lose the opportunity to get merit aid by applying ED? Okay,
so this is a question that I'm going to table to the end of this talk, because that's not what we all should be thinking about right now. Right now, we should be getting the best grades that we can. We should be getting the best test scores that we can, and we should be kicking it on the APs, okay? I want to make your life easier and not harder. So I will address that at the end, but let's go back to
that's great.
The State of the Union. All right, so here we are. Is that seeable?
Yep.
All right, so hopefully another change that's going to happen is, see these masks? Hopefully they're going to come off. Let's hope that's one more change. So now we're here. What about your specific student? We have a timeline for you. We are so excited about this timeline, and Emily's going to drop it in the chat right now. This is going to tell you exactly what needs to be going on in your world, because I know a lot of you are going, what about teacher recommendations? What about this? What about that? I promise you, we are going to keep you on a straight tack if we can, okay? And we're going to tell you what to do when you need to do it. And we're going to try to keep everything top of mind is important. And the overall, like I told you, we're on the bowling alley and we brought the sides up so you can't go in the gutter, right? Now we're going to start showing you how to roll strikes. So the timeline for your student, did you put that up there?
Absolutely.
It's so exciting. Okay, I'm going to show it to you anyway, because it's just really fun. But this is the timeline for your student. And you will see right here It's testing season. That's the most important thing. We just talked to you about that. Initial college lists. We're going to be working on that. I encourage you to have your meeting with me and let's get that list in there because that's exciting things to do. And we'll just start whittling away. It's a living, breathing document and it can change and change and change over time. We are going to start talking about recommendations and asking two teachers. But if you look here, it's in May. I'm circling May with my finger and my little arrow, but that's really important for you to know. So you don't need to worry about teacher recommendations right now. You need to be creating those relationships with your teachers. And I know it's hard to do, but I'll tell you one thing, if you're not turning your computer screen on and you're not turning your camera on in class, that's just one hint I'll give you right now. You're going to get a better recommendation if your camera's on. So there's your hint for the night. We're going to talk a little bit about your summer plans. And those of you who are working through Counsel More, you know, we have a ton of summer plan options in there. And we've also sent out tons of emails on that. We'll talk about that in our next meeting. And then your personal essay prep, which is the first chance in your whole application to tell these colleges who you are. And you and Emily and I are going to work hard on that. We're going to brainstorm and we are going to put together a personal essay that is just going to be absolutely amazing. Our goal is to get that done by the time the Common App opens. So you now have this. It's our little infogram. You can hang it on their refrigerator and it just is there for you to take a breath and know that you're right where you need to be. Does that sound good?
This sounds great.
All right, the sun is going down.
Not here. Not yet.
That's why Emily's lighting is better. The thing I like about having our director of punctuation and structure on the West Coast is that when you teenagers decide that you want to do work at 11 p.m., it's only 8 o'clock at her house and she's there and she's ready for you. So that was your timeline. It's in the chat. Practice tests. I showed you that. Apple Ruth has a mock testing weekend, April 24th and 25th. Take advantage of it because what they do is they send you back the questions you got wrong so you know what to practice. It's really awesome because the best way to get better is to practice. You just got to keep trying, keep taking the test and practice. The Common App. Okay, everybody, it opens August 1st. Like I said, our goal is to have your Common App information ready to go. We're growing that and building it and putting into our Counsel More right now. It's through your activities and your participation. So please make sure you're putting that stuff in there and I'll be helping you refine it as we go. You can start your Common App now, but you won't be considered a senior until August 1st. So no teacher recommendations will get loaded in there. Nothing gets loaded in until you are a senior. And that happens on August 1st. So congratulations. But you can go in there and play around and just kind of get to know it right now if you want to. So we're going to take some questions, but I wanted to just, do you think we should take questions now or should I talk about this?
I think you should keep talking because it's actually 5 minutes over, 6 minutes over what we said.
So it's this year, I just want to say congratulations to our class of 2021. And they're not even done because Ivy Day isn't until April the 6th, which is tomorrow. Oh my gosh. But anyway, so far this year, our kids have gotten $4 million in merit aid offers. Wow. I mean, I'm so happy for all of these kids. And I just want to let you guys all know the most money any family can ever get towards the cost of attendance to a university is from the university itself. That's why we don't mess around with those smaller scholarships here, there, $500, $200. The juice isn't really worth the squeeze. The best place for you to get a discount on your tuition are two ways. One is financial aid, and you have to show need. That's all going to be based on that FAFSA and that CSS profile. The second way that you can get a discount off of your cost of attendance, it's a COA, we're going to learn a whole new vocabulary, is to put forth the best application you can for a school that's right for you. If you have found the right fit and you're at the right school for you, and we have a good list with some schools, I don't like the lingo, I got to call it something else, but some maybe you're stretching a little bit to get into, some that are right in your wheelhouse, and then maybe one or two that, you're pretty sure you're going to get in. That's what we want, a strong, good list where you'd be happy to go to any of the schools on it. And between now and then, and when we apply, which is going to be in the fall, we're going to make sure that you have the best possible application. I love starting with kids when they're sophomores because I can help them with their activities more. I can help them pick more classes, but I also love working with juniors because it's go time for you guys, but now we just need to turn up the volume, and we'll do that right after you get through all of this testing stuff and you finish your junior year strong. Okay, but I just wanted to make sure you know the difference between merit aid, which is a new word, wasn't around when we were younger, and outside scholarships. And that means scholarships that are outside of the university itself. And typically your high school guidance office will have those scholarships. They might be from a local senator or like True Value Hardware, or your parents' employer may have a scholarship. But other than that, Mo's going to put, what are you popping into the chat?
Yeah, you know what? This last one in particular, I hope this isn't true for all of them. I just tested the last one. I'm sorry. I don't know why when I click on it, the link for the 5 scholarships list, once I pop it into the chat window, it's not working. So
That's
I'm trying
okay.
different methods, everyone, but if not, of course, we can send that later.
There's a couple places where you can look. One's called Going Mary, one's called Scully. They have a bunch of different big future places where you can go. But to me, don't spend your time on that. Spend your time on really differentiating yourself, doing the things we've been talking about so you can put forth the best application ever. All of that is the sprinkles on the sundae that we work on after we've applied to schools. That's just my opinion, and we've been pretty successful handling it that way. So we've got a lot of kids that got a lot of money to go to quite a few schools. And if you want to see the list of those schools, it's very exciting. It is on our website under outcomes. Very quickly, I just want to make sure that you are signed into Counsel More and that you book an appointment, okay? Parents need to be signed in, students need to be signed in, okay? It's not 2 different portals. It's giving parents access to the students portal, but I have a choice to send messages to parents, students, or both, and this is where the magic happens. So I'm just going to leave this screen up and answer any questions you have, and you guys can kind of peruse. This is my Counsel More. It shows that I'm signed in, I'm in assignments. It's showing me the places I can all across the top research schools. All of this stuff is loaded into each of your students' Counsel More. So it's important for you to know how to use it. And then here's some other assignments I listed right here. And then right here is where the parents go under contacts. Make sure your student has put your information in, that your email is correct. And then we will click invite you and you are good to go. So what questions can I answer?
Oh, goodness. Let me back up just a little bit. I've been trying to get that link to work, so I stuck that in there. It seems to be correct now. Had to do it a couple times. Is the practice test also available for current sophomores?
Oh, yeah. So you can go to that Counsel More and you can take it. I don't want you to study for it as a sophomore, but yeah, take it. See how you do. And if you're doing really well and you're a sophomore, and you roll into junior year and you feel like you're in a really good testing trajectory, you could take it January of your junior year. You can take your SAT or ACT, or even in December if you want to. If you're feeling like where your maths are and you're ready to go, you can certainly take it early. It's Algebra 2 and Geometry. That's the math in those standardized tests that you need to know.
Okay, well, the only other, unless I'm missing something, the only other one was that one about early decision. The only other question.
All right. Well, I will answer that early decision question. Please, if anyone else has questions, pop them into the chat right now. I just want you to know that, yes, the information flies at us. I highly recommend you follow us on Facebook at Annapolis College Consulting. If there's anything going on in the world of college and there's a good article that's been written about it, I'm going to post it there. So you don't have to hunt all around. If you need to know something, just go to my Facebook page. And that's very educational. Instagram we use it to remind you of things, like it was even in the story today, the reminder of this meeting tonight. We celebrate our kids. We have a lot of fun on Instagram. It's not a promotional site at all. It's just for our kids to know what the heck is going on. And we feature colleges sometimes and all of that. Our YouTube channel is great. There is a video that you all should watch. It's called Why I Said Yes to This Talk, and it's by Malcolm Gladwell. And I really urge you to listen to that. I think it will level set a lot of things. There's 1 or 2 or 3 videos that I highly recommend that are in that. And I recommend that you subscribe to our channel. And then when you're wanting to go and look at a college, if you look on our college information channel, I've watched all of those videos and I think they're all very good. So rather than getting lost in YouTube land, you'll kind of be targeted into good videos and good student panels and things like that. And then our website, I don't know if you've been to the college, to our client portal, but everything is there. Everything is there, and you can sign in to Counsel More. You can book an appointment with me. You could have booked this meeting. And as you scroll down, I think I'm going to show you that right now really quick. Wow, I've got a lot of resources going on here, huh?
I put the link to the Malcolm Gladwell video in there. I popped it in right before you mentioned it. So everyone, it's, I just threw it in there under a great video to watch.
And for you guys, you can go to the little 3 dots and you can save the chat. So don't worry about like scribbling and writing really fast. You can save the chat and all of this will be right in there. So here is in our client in news. If you just click on news, here's our whole website. Click on news. The first thing that pops up is resources for your family. You can have everything here, where to go if you're looking for schools, all this stuff up on testing and prep companies, student athletes, student aid, gap year programs, summer programs, all of those things. That's all right here. Okay. You can also put almost anything in the search if you're just wondering about something. And this is one that I just wanted to pop up. Top 9 reasons some families don't look at some colleges. 9 myths debunked. Don't think small and medium schools are too expensive. They have the most money to give. Some people think they make too much money and they'll never get any aid. It's not what the government is willing to give you. They're not willing to give you much, but a lot of schools have endowments and are able to meet a need gap if you have a need gap. And we can talk about that one off. My student's a high flyer. It's Ivy or bust. To me, don't you want to be the best or get the best recommendations? And sometimes it's better to be the best at a school where you fit than constantly have to struggle at a school that's very stressful. I think it's up to each student. I talked to the parent today who was really comfortable at her Ivy level school. It fit for her. But there's other kids that maybe it wouldn't fit for. I had anxiety. There's no way, regardless of how smart or not smart I was, I could have handled that level of competition. So just be very open-minded. This is a really good article just to show you that. Here's the client portal. I know I'm going fast, but it's a lot of stuff. Look, there's the Parent State of the Union. This is confetti because we're excited. Ivy Day, it explains what Ivy Day was. Harvard got 57,000 applications for fall of 2021 compared to 40,000 the year before. It's a huge increase. You can book an appointment. You can log into Counsel More. Here's Appleruth, the tutoring that does this practice test. Here's Tutor Partner. She's our local tutor partner. We have a financial advisor who'll give anyone 30 minutes of free information. I don't speak that much financial aid. I just know how you go about it. So she's the expert there. And then our partners. Everyone should be subscribed to Teen Life. It's going to give you great ideas, great things to think about for the summer. College Scoops are for when you travel and see schools, and Tuition Fit this time next year. You'll be logging into that, and we will be comparing offers and hopefully negotiating for better deals. And then here are all of our articles. So I just gave you the fire hose to the face of information. And I hope everybody enjoyed that and feels like they know where they are and is ready to book their appointment and really get involved in this process.
All right. And that question about ED?
Okay. So
Before we go,
there's ways to apply to schools. ED is early decision. EA is early action. Early decision, I have a whole article about it. It's like dating. Early decision is you pick the one guy or girl, you're going to get married, you ask them to marry, and if they say yes, you are walking down the aisle. That is what ED is. It's a binding agreement that if that school says yes, you're going. Okay. There is a caveat. If when they come to you with the aid, financial or merit, and you really can't afford it, you can get out of it for those reasons. Your second part of the question was, do they not give as much aid to these ED kids? That is a really interesting question because they have to give aid to the ED kids or the kids might not go because they would want money. Some of these schools tell you exactly on a graph how much money you will get, say University of Georgia. If you have this ACT score and this GPA, you will get $9,600. End of story. If you get in, that's what you will get. So if you go ED to University of Georgia and you hit those 2 marks, you're going to get that merit aid because it's on a grid. It's on a grid for University of Alabama too. Other schools, it's the magical mystery tour and you have no idea. So you're looking at that holistic application. But your financial aid will always play in on ED, but I would say merit you might not get as much merit aid if you go early decision. And they like full pay kids early decision. Full pay early decision, rock and roll. That's how you tip the scales in your favor. Early action is what all of you guys are going to do. We want all of your applications in that first part of the year. And we don't actually take essays after Thanksgiving. So, dun, 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 you heard it here first.